Hi all, this is Che. YouTube viewers, you are hearing me but not seeing me because I am editing this episode on a pretty janky setup down in Miami at an Airbnb for the holidays, which, first of all, happy holidays to everybody. Second of all, little heads up for the episode. We had a issue on Corey's end while recording and we lost his audio, but there is the recording of the call audio on my end, so it's pretty seamless. Quality's a little worse than usual, and he cuts out a bit, and there's some computer sounds in there, some notification noises, but for the most part, it's a pretty seamless edit. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Just wanted to give you a heads up if you hear some weird stuff. That is what's going on. This was a really fun book. Really enjoyed talking about it. Do A Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson. And I'm going to throw it to the episode now. Enjoy. Shout out to my birds. Hello. This is Che.
This is Corey.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. Today we'll be discussing Yorgos Lanthimos and whether or not he hates sex. Corey, what are your thoughts on the Greek legend?
I don't think he hates sex. I just think he has a strong indifference towards it.
I don't know. I just saw Poor Things last night, which fucking ripped.
It was an amazing film.
I saw The Lobster in theaters in 2015, and I don't know. That guy seems like he might fucking hate sex. Women and men. It's one of the two.
Definitely men. But
definitely men.
We gotta have a talk here ago. I did not need to see Mark Ruffalo have sex, and I wish I didn't.
As you all know, I go into movies as blind as possible. I didn't know anything about Poor Things except for it was directed by Yorgos, starring Emma Stone.
I mean, it has one of my favorite trailers because it's just.
I haven't watched the trailer yet. I will watch the trailer for sure.
Yelling her name out in the streets of Paris. It is just an amazing. It's like, oh, I have to see this film now.
But I think that might have been one of the films where I should have read like a quick, what is this movie about? Because the opening 10 minutes. For me, it was amazing. I loved being like in the deep end, having no idea. If you are going to see Poor Things, I would just say you should know what the movie is first, because the opening of the movie is really like, here you're in the deep end. Congratulations on coming to see my movie, guys.
Yeah, I guess I kind of knew what it was going into it.
I had no idea what this movie was going to be about.
I mean, the trailer wasn't super, but you kind of had the whole Frankenstein girl learning about life kind of vibe. But
I thought this movie was going to be like The Favorite, like more The Favorite vibes than The Lobster. And on the scale of like Yorgos weirdness, it goes The Favorite over here, The Lobster over here, Poor Things is like over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like Lobster has a semblance of being in the real world, and this is completely just bonkers.
I loved it. I saw 6 movies this week.
God damn.
Probably my favorite. It is close between that and the opening hour and a half of Maestro, which like made me feel things. And then I also saw Godzilla -1, but we're not talking about any of that today. We're talking about a comic book today. The final. This is for sure because we're not squeezing another one in 2 weeks.
That'd be impossible.
The final book club of 2023, Daniel Warren Johnson's Do A Powerbomb. Calling it a wrestling book feels like a bit dismissive, but that is what it is. The fantasy wrestling book about loss and love and honestly about excellent fucking art. Like some of my favorite art of any book this year. We talked about Daniel Warren Johnson in the past. For those of you who are not familiar with his work, he's probably most famous for Murder Falcon and Extremity. He's also currently on the Transformers book that is an Image, which Corey has read and says he likes, but I have
very
not
good.
read yet.
It's very good. Yeah.
But then a book that we both love, Murder Falcon.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've read Extremity. I enjoy Extremity.
I have not read Extremity, but I was
Extremity's
a big
good.
fan of Wonder Woman.
Well, that's what's going to be Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman Dead Earth. I think is my favorite of his books.
I think it might have made it onto one of our best of lists whenever I can't remember
Probably,
exactly
right?
when it was.
They're all a blur to me.
Also, I'm a big fan. I do think that Wonder Woman might be his best comic, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think Extremity, being one of his earlier works, is like a guy figuring out his voice, and I think it's enjoyable if you are a fan of his other work. Definitely go pick it up, but it's not my favorite of his. I'm not saying it's bad, but like I said, I think Murder Falcon and Dead Earth are both better than Extremity for sure.
I feel like by now, and I think Do A Powerbomb is definitely in the realm of he knows exactly who he is with this book. And also, just a quick shout out before we made a rate, Bill. I wish I could tell you off the top of my head what year, but I think it's the last 2 or 3 years. It was like a 4 to 5 issue miniseries by Marvel. Just another random character that someone decided to do a quick deep dive into the psyche of. Another fantastic book.
Some of my favorite styles of books.
Yeah, he has with amazing art.
Yeah, I pulled those books because those ones I recognize, but he's done a number of other things, including some stuff I've never heard of, called like the Jurassic League. Do you know this is a DC book, Corey?
I forgot
now,
about that.
Apparently.
The Jurassic League, which, I mean, guys, if you have to think too hard about it, it's really just the Justice League or dinosaurs.
Yeah, the cover looks.
That's it.
I will say the cover looks intriguing, if not particularly my style. But
dumb. I gotta describe it as dumb fun.
Dumb fun is good.
It.
I'm never.
Fun.
I'm never against dumb fun. I'm
not my favorite.
Yeah, but like I said, he certainly has some topics that interest him that I think really take the forefront in this book in particular. Loss, murder. That's a big part of Murder Falcon, and not even just loss, but like dealing with depression and melancholy and people. I think he likes to tell stories of people revitalizing themselves. And that is very much what Do A Powerbomb is about. I think the opening, from the opening on, is basically you watch a character at their lowest try to get to a point of restoration, if that is even really possible.
I mean, it's just a very good classic. I mean, it's like what it really is. Also, is just a really good version of a sports film, which I feel like a lot of people like try to capture that vibe in these things, but it's like taking a sports film, but also putting it in like a genre that really isn't really used like this. And I think with the art style and the ability to make it so fantastical, which is hard to do outside of like comics or animation, it just very much like finds itself in a really good avenue of that.
I think a lot of this this book is really tonally very interesting. He's exploring very real world problems, like you were saying, in a very fantastical setting. I mean, I was going to say spoiler alert, but we're very much going to spoil this book. So if you haven't read it and you're not looking for spoilers, please take your leave now. I appreciate it, but
like the general pitch is a girl does a tag team wrestling tournament in order to revive her dead mother with the wrestler who accidentally killed her mother, and it's in like hell. I don't know, but it's amazing.
Well, not in hell.
Not in hell. In a different dimension.
Before we actually get to what the book is, we have one more creator to go over, and that is Mike Spicer, who does the color. So Daniel Warren Johnson does the art and is the script, I guess is what you want to call it. He writes and draws the book. Mike Spicer, who is his often collaborator on all the works we've listed before, does the color on this. Also has done the color on another one of our favorite books, which we've talked about on this podcast before, Stillwater by Chip Zdarsky. So a accomplished artist in his own right. But as a team, I think they've made a lot. Like you said, we made a lot of great books. We've gone over them already. Now we can jump into
I think this
what is Murder Falcon, or what is Do A Powerbomb.
Do A Powerbomb. As I mentioned earlier, it's like a wrestling book, kind of based off of professional wrestling, but takes a lot more from Japanese professional wrestling, which I kind of looked up.
Until they go to the necromancer realm. It's set in Tokyo.
It's coming off of like Tokyo, which I gotta say, guys, if you've never looked up Japanese professional wrestling, those motherfuckers are crazy.
Yeah.
It's like jumping off of ridiculous heights. It's like it seems truly unhinged. And like I was
Which is
looking
so
at this,
funny to me because it's like, I guess I was gonna the interpretation I have of like Japanese sporting culture in my head is a very like sumo wrestling is very what's the word? Not traditional, but like ceremony focused, and it's sort of like a religious experience, for lack of a better word. And then you watch Japanese wrestling, which is like more akin to the Japanese game show culture, which is just like fucking bright lights, flashing colors, yelling.
It's like it puts us to shame with it. It's like smaller productions, but these guys are just it's just much better than what we did. And I think I was reading in a blurb for the idea that he got from this was when his wife was pregnant, or I think he just had a kid, and in between moments he got really into Japanese wrestling and those weird moments where he couldn't sleep. But if you haven't got a chance to watch it, I really recommend it. It's much more entertaining than our wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not a big wrestling guy, fake or real. We were actually talking about this last night in relation to the fact that I am confused about who the audience for the Iron Claw film that A24 is releasing is.
It's that's another interesting film. I feel like we're going to talk about at some point because I am interested in watching that film. It just seems the story's so depressing. I just don't feel like getting punched in the gut like that.
It's how I felt about Foxcatcher too, which was like, God, this movie is. We just know it's going to go so badly.
It's going to go bad, and I like the way the wrestling looked in the trailer that I saw. I am not a wrestling fan either. I watched it for like a couple years in middle school, but if you ever the opportunity to go see it live, guys, it is one of the most fun. It is a just fun live experience.
It's one of those segments of society that is like I'm aware of because its fan base is so incredibly fervent that it spills out. It's like Taylor Swift fans or like the NFL to me. I'm not a part of it at all, but it surrounds me and I hear about it all the time. Like I could probably list a number of current professional wrestlers having, I think, never in my life watched a match. Maybe certainly not like in recent memory, but which is it is. Oh, every time I delve back into this world, like if I'll watch a movie or read a comic book, I always remember it's like, yeah, they'll sell out like stadiums, like arenas full of people to watch this shit. And that comes across in Do A Powerbomb, which is
the crazy thing about it is it's just soap opera.
Yeah.
It's just occasional fighting, but it's mostly just soap opera.
Well, and I think wrestling fans are aware that that's what they like about it. They like the narrative. It is, of course, the acrobatics and the majesty of the actual wrestling matches is important in itself, but surely the draw is the drama of it. I actually listened to a wrestling podcast for a while that the shtick was that it was going back over every WrestleMania in order since WrestleMania 1. But really the podcast was just talking about all the narrative around it, and like I was gonna say Joe Rogan, but that's not his name. I'm blanking. It's Vince McMahon, and like his honestly just criminal behavior throughout the years and all the terrible.
Fucking a horrible person. I mean, I think I'm so fascinated whenever like they kind of get those, like the Andre the Giant documentary that HBO put out was also just really good, but it also talks about very much how the industry works and how, I mean, dark it is. I think there was even like it's a podcast or a TV show called Dark Side of the Ring, where it just kind of explores like all of the things that take place outside of it.
Yeah.
Which for the better part about this comic is it does not explore. It is about the outside of the comic, but like the wrestling part of it is not. The
wrestling
really
is more of a medium for the story that he's trying to tell, which is very much that's why I said calling this a wrestling book, even though it is very much a part of like the experience of reading it and certainly the aesthetic. Like this book looks incredible in part because it's really borrowing from the styles and the look of wrestling. This is not a wrestling book. This is a book about loss and family. And I think that is what Daniel Warren Johnson does best is he hides, I say hides like these are vegetables, but like he will stick a really human story in a really grandiose wrapper.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately the story is about a father and a daughter accepting the death of their mom like 10 years later.
Their relationship and how it's changed and strained their relationship. I mean, literally, there was that moment, I think it's in the 7th book, near the end, where she's talking to her father, and says to him, like, we lost all this time because you didn't tell me the truth. And you can't ever get that back. So
he does a really good job of like balancing emotions like that, in like when, especially at the very end, where like all those emotional hits were just very, none of it felt like, and I really like and I feel like it's such an easy option when it gets to scenes like that, where to have people just yelling at each other or just like being like this. But in truth be told, I really like the way they did this, where it was kind of just more of like a melancholic, just like, yeah, this is it sucks, but at least we have each other and we could try to repair this.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to do so.
I think it is a testament to the book and to Johnson's writing that a setup that on paper feels to me sort of like comically sad, like the end of $1 Million Baby. It does not have the same effect that it seemed to have on all the Oscar voters on me, because I think it's too ridiculously over the top depressing, where she's like falls on a stool and is paralyzed. This book is about a father who kills his wife by accident in front of their daughter and millions of adoring fans in a ring, and has to then go on living his life lying to his daughter about who he is and that he did it. And while still, like, the only way that he can make money is by playing this character that did this horrible thing forever and ever and ever. And which is, again, like I said, on paper feels almost too ridiculous to be in a story that you can really connect with. But Johnson really, like I said, his writing is deft enough, and his characters are rich enough on the page that he manages to pull off this thing that should, I would say, not work.
No, it shouldn't. And like also like another note about how they decided to like handle the situation with the when she, like, before she even knows that her father is the wrestlers that she's working with, it's like interesting because like she's like mad at him, but it's not like the kicking and screaming like I fucking hate you, because at least both of them have accepted and learned it's like this wrestling is fake.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't real, but it's like mistakes happen.
Yeah.
But I still feel like you are like partially to blame, because I mean it's just unfortunate that like and the way that she died is like, I mean, he was holding her up for a move and then his foot slips and she breaks her neck,
right,
which is, I mean, tragic, but things like that happen in this sport because it's very dangerous. But
yeah, and I had a thought when the reveal happens later in the book where, and I have this thought a lot of times in stories where, like, is my issue with the way it's told or the story that Johnson wants to tell? Because I really think still maybe that there's a version of this book where he is not her father, where Cobra's son is not revealed to be her father, that is maybe better. But I don't know, because it's just a completely different story.
I was thinking that too, because I was like very on board with like this guy's going in for his own reasons to revive the mom, and it could be like, and that's just like the character, and this guy's like has his own demons to battle.
Well, I think you'd have this guilt if you were just like this guy who killed this woman who was a stranger or not, or a coworker or whatever.
Yeah, it's a coworker basically. Yeah. So
and you've been like burdened with this your whole life, and you see an opportunity to maybe strip yourself of that burden. It's a different story than what this book is about, which is like you said, it's about a father and daughter struggling with loss and then trying to repair themselves and their relationship.
I think if the series was longer, you could definitely have these two characters dealing with this. But I think the appropriate amount of issues this book had, I think you kind of had to make it that kind of tight. And I think, at least to me, I was thinking like, this is the story he's going to tell. Like, this is what the story is going to be between the two of them. And when the reveal actually happened that it is her father, I was like more of like, this is interesting with the direction we're going with. I didn't dislike it. I like where the story ended up with, and even I was a bit like kind of caught off guard with it, because I just kind of already accepted it into my brain that it's like this is just how it's gonna be.
And I think there are some cool moments, which we'll get to more specific moments in the second half of the podcast. But I think there's some cool moments before you know who Cobra's son is, that if you still think he is a stranger, and he has that moment. I think I marked it in my notes where he's sees somebody on the ring, and he has this sort of PTS level flashback where he sees Yuna in her place, and it's like this. I really liked the idea of this character who had a different motivation from our main character, Lona Steel Rose, trying to amend it. But like I said, it's like saying, I really wish, The Equalizer was about a guy selling phone books door to door versus being the sickest guy ever, killing Russians in Turkey.
I gotta say this though, man. As someone who just watched Equalizer 2, I could have watched the film of Denzel Washington as being an Uber.
It's the best, right?
Just driving people around, just like honestly, just kind of helping them out every once in a while. And I'm like, they could have made that 3 fucking hours.
I'm really glad Corey's on the Equalizer fucking rips.
I get it now. I didn't like the first one that much. And the second one was very good to me.
It's interesting. I have said they get progressively better. You haven't watched 3 yet, have you?
No, I was gonna do that after this actually.
3 is the best.
Before I go out tonight, that's gonna be my pregame.
3 was it is not. Spoiling our end of year list a little bit. It is not in my top 10. It will not make my top 10. But it's probably the most fun I had in theaters until maybe last night. Which Past Lives was fucking ripped, dog. That movie was sick.
That's the top of a lot of lists this year. Past Lives, and I still got to get around.
Sorry, not Past Lives. Sorry, not Past Lives.
Four Things.
Past Lives is incredible. It did not rip. I would not use that description of that movie.
Four Things rips.
Four Things. Maybe the funniest movie I've seen. Certainly this year. Maybe
definitely this year. I did not
time.
Expect to laugh that hard. So as we continue with the plot of the story, we have the big reveal that it's the father. But I guess we kind of did leave out a big part of the story and the kind of driving force, Willard Neckerton, who is this.
You say a big part of the story, but he is. I feel like he's mostly a tool for.
Yes,
plot propulsion.
I mean, big part. Yes, he is the plot introduction because the way the book works out now is that basically this demon, I don't fucking necromancer guy from a different dimension. Yeah.
Who's been banished to a different realm.
Approaches. Is it Lona? Is that the kid?
Yeah.
Lona, with the promise of being, if she joins his tag team wrestling tournament and wins, he can revive her dead mother. And he also had, I'm gonna call him Cobra-san, even though it is her father, but he's Cobra-san in the book, so he's also approached Cobra-san off page with the same idea as well. So the two team up with the goal to go there and revive the dead mom, and now they enter into this supernatural wrestling tournament where the wrestling is actually real, even to a point of they have to point it out in the book that, oh, we actually have to wrestle for real, kind of thing.
What did you think of that?
I do like it because I think we do have to establish that wrestling isn't real in our world.
Well, sorry, yes, no, I shouldn't say. I liked the reveal. I thought it was actually a pretty funny reveal that Willard Neckerton, which can't tell if it's an incredible character name or a horrible character name.
A little bit of both.
But I love the reveal that he thought wrestling was real. I thought it would have been funnier, at least. I don't know if it's better for the story if wrestling is fake everywhere and he just doesn't know. He just literally doesn't realize. But then the reveal that it's only fake on Earth and real everywhere else. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about it. How did you feel about that?
I thought it was fine. I thought it was if anything, I thought it was fine because it's kind of just so much of he just likes all these forms of it, so he kind of accepts it. But I think if it wasn't I think it has to be real in some of the places because it can't be across the board because some people are just murderers. So I think in some places it has to be real, but not everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think it makes it easier just to be Earth is fake, everywhere else is real.
It's again, I'm coming back to the is it me just criticizing what the story that Johnson wanted to tell? I think it's fun. I think it's at least.
I think it's
funnier
meant to be funny.
To be but I think it's funnier to be here are all these people who have all been brought together, as is revealed over the course of the book, to fight for the most important thing in their lives. And actually, none of them are fighters. They're all performers.
Yes.
And it's just it's. We talked about this with the Santa Claus. It's a lot like Galaxy Quest, where you get these people who are literally just actors who have to then save the universe.
I think that's a different book.
No. Really that's what I'm saying. It's a different thing.
You keep throwing out these books ideas, Trey. You need to shut the fuck up.
I don't know if we could write the book I'm thinking of because everyone would read it and go, well, this is Do A Powerbomb.
And we'll be shut up.
With some slight changes. I wonder if these guys did a podcast episode about this exact book.
That's the sequel to Do a Powerbomb. You're welcome, Daniel.
Yeah. No, I thought that reveal was really funny, and again, like I said, I just kind of wanted them to all not be fighters, but it's like you said, it's a different book, especially we get that reveal. Who are the genuine psychopaths? The
They what's it called?
They have like an
FYSO.
acronym name, yeah.
Fuck you, like what is like I can't remember what it is.
Fuck your opinions.
Fuck your stupid opinions. I
Fuck your
think
stupid
that's what
opinions. Yeah, the
yeah, it's fucking
FYSO.
but yeah, there are actual psychopaths who like because I mean you have to have some where people there are I mean for a sports thing like this, you have to have people there who actually are there for a genuine reason. You got to have your big bads too, so it all works out, and then in the end they kill each other. Because
Yeah, I'm gonna save I'm gonna save my criticism of this book for later. I think that part was. It's again. I understand the book is like way over the top, and a lot of the things I like about this book are how over the top it gets. The same way I felt about Murder Falcon, where I mean the book is called Murder Falcon, which in itself is preposterous, and it's just like
not
I said,
about Murder Falcon.
Yeah, Warren Johnson turns everything up to 11, and in the core of his story is something that's actually really simple and true to just the human experience. I do think at times in this book, the 11 maybe nudges over to 12, and I'm not sure. I love it every time, but I don't know. I think it's also the necromancer bringing a bunch of people together to do a Yu Yu Hakusho style fight to the death wrestling match to save their loved ones is it's great, and that in itself is an 11 on the scale of 1 to 10.
Honestly,
sure.
If I was a comic book publisher, someone walked into that pitch, I'm like, I'm gonna give you every bit of it. You need to make this run now.
And then he was like, it's gonna be a wrestling book, and it's gonna have some of the best action art you ever seen. And you're like, well, you
like at this point, if I'm a Hollywood executive, my face is face down in a pile of cocaine. Be like, this is the best idea ever.
Also, it's gonna star a thick-thighed Japanese lady. he's really tapped into something, hasn't he? Johnson knows his demographic.
Into something. And then they're gonna fight monkeys, and I'm like, yo, man, like you make the greatest comics of all time. So that funny list that I think the old DC publisher idea is like if you add monkeys to the cover, it'll sell better, and that's
Wait,
I don't
what?
understand. It was a whole like it was like a DC like as a DC or Marvel they had
some
this like
research.
Yeah, it was like an in-house thing where it was like here's like a list of things that you can do and list of things that would like help your book sell. And one of the things for some reason was like if you add a monkey to your story, especially on the cover, it is more than likely to sell better.
I would love to see that list. We'll see if I can track it down.
I'll see if I can find it. I'll see if I can track it down.
And I would love to see if anybody did a cover with like just all the stuff. Tried to make a cover that had all of the things that you needed to put on. Like there's a monkey there and like I don't know a couple or kissing or like a kid. I don't know what the list is, but it'd be great to see if there's some cover out there that just had everything on it. Because the covers of Do a Powerbomb are sick. And like we're talking about covers. Back to the sort of topic at hand. That cover of issue 1, I remember when I picked this up, again, not really knowing what this book was, and also, like I said, not being a wrestling guy myself, but that first cover is striking. You have, I don't know actually who it's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be Yuna or Lona, but I guess it must be Yuna in the first issue, and then you have the skulls in the audience in the first, and then behind it the big face of Cobra-san, who we don't know yet, but it is one of those I think that like not knowing how the book opens, it grabs you, or not knowing how the book ends, I should say, grabs you, and then of course knowing the trajectory of these 7 issues and how the story will ultimately resolve, it's even more powerful.
I mean, honestly, I'm excited to like go back and reread this series, like kind of taking my time a bit more, and kind of looking at the story from them, because I mean it is built up to be like there's the big bad, and like I didn't really know what the story was gonna be. I thought maybe like this woman's gonna go get revenge on this guy, or like kind of like I thought, and I think the whole reveal that like as I said before that like wrestling's still fake in the world, I think it also does help with their relationship going into it, like her and the Cobra-san character.
Well, it's like I mean this has happened in many stories. I can't pull one off the top of my head for some reason, but like a more realistic or more relatable example of it is like you're a loved one dies in a car accident and the other person survives, and it's like, can you bring yourself to forgive them for this accident? It's like, and then that's what I'm saying. That idea, if they'd explored that, if Johnson had explored that more, I would be interested in that. It's just a different thing. He's not exploring that story, which is, again, we don't really get to see her have to go through this forgiveness journey because, of course, it's her father who clearly, even though she knew it in her head, wasn't trying to hurt her mother, but now it's like alleviates that whole element of the journey for the character. But
I think I'm also just a sucker for like Racer X moments, and I think he even commented on that in his little afterwards page on it, where like the reveal that the character in the mask is somebody that you know, and it's kind of I don't know. I like that trope, but I also have an unhealthy relationship with Speed Racers, so I think that's just a me thing.
I'm less, and that's the thing, is I'm probably the opposite of the spectrum, which I don't like. I actually don't really like it. I think it's usually not very interesting storytelling. I think it sometimes works, and
it's so tropey, but this book is filled with so many sports tropes. I mean, like, I think, like, honestly, going down the list and just like looking at everything.
It is a big wrestling thing, though. Actually,
it is a wrestling thing.
It's the mask reveal where it's like this person was.
Oh my god! I mean, I think even like as a kid, I remember. I think it was like The Undertaker and like Kane, and like Kane was his brother, and Kane wore a mask, and I think that was a thing.
Right. Yeah.
I don't remember.
And then wrestlers have alter egos where they'll go through whole story arcs. I don't know if it still happens, but I know it's in more classic wrestling, you'd have whole story arcs of people, famous wrestlers in masks playing a different character, and then there would be a big reveal after weeks of this story that, oh shit, it's
he's back. He's
Shawn Michaels. I don't know if that actually was Shawn Michaels, but that's one of the wrestlers I can name.
Yeah, he kicks people in the face. I like Shawn Michaels.
Anything else to say about like the? I mean, we've sort of teased the plot of the story. Do you want to close out the synopsis with? We haven't really said the words "wrestle God" yet.
Yeah. So after they go through the tournament, they win some, they lose one at the end, but the two wrestlers for FYSO, fuck your stupid opinions, they agree to wrestle to the death themselves in order to decide who they can resurrect. They kill each other. So our team of Cobra-san and Lana win the tournament, but the Necro, Willard Necroton, can't resurrect the mom with the amount of power that he has. So they have to go wrestle one more person, and that is God. So they wrestle God, basically, for the resurrection of their mother.
Who then reveals that he also can't resurrect their mother.
Or not, but I think they lose, so he doesn't do it. I don't remember.
No, but I also think, I mean, the suggestion was, and I
think the suggestion was that he couldn't do it.
That he couldn't or wouldn't have ever done it, regardless. And then also, they don't beat God.
They don't beat. I'm saying they did lose.
Yeah, they lose, so he doesn't do it either.
I gotta say though, if they actually beat God, though, I'm like, that kind of. I mean, they're already wrestling God, but I mean, if we're gonna go by the rules of this universe, that makes no sense at all.
Well, that's the thing is, tonally in this book, I mean, from issue 1, I just sort of. Tell me if you agree or you think I'm off base. I just sort of knew that nobody was getting resurrected at the end of this book. This was not going to be a book about a necromancer or albeit God.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, like,
their mother back to life.
The story is like not about that.
Right.
It's like it would. Yeah, the story is not about that. Like the story, like deep down, it's about the relationship between a father and a daughter.
I think there's a version of the story where she gets resurrected in like issue 2, and then there's something about the fallout or some narrative to tell from that story. But once we get to issue 7 and the book is ending, and you're like, is the last page of this book really going to be this family having a happy reunion hug together in the streets of Tokyo?
Can't. I don't think. Of
course not. It's not what the narrative. It's not what the stories or the themes are of this book.
I don't think any story that would bring her back is like that would just it wouldn't be a good story.
No,
looking at you, Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, but isn't that sort of like the anime thing where you just sort of have to like you got like 4 billion episodes you need to fill with time, so you have to kill them and bring them back to life over and over again.
And that's a comic book thing too. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. At least in comic books though, we do like a little bit of split, and we have like,
yeah,
here's this one Batman book. Yes, Batman dies in this book, but he's also over here in this book, and he's alive. Fine. But they're different. Don't worry about how they're different.
Shut up. He's just dead here, but don't worry. The timeline.
They're both Bruce Wayne. Yes, of course. But also in a way, they're both not the same Bruce Wayne.
I think Alfred's been dead for like 3 years, which is kind of surprising.
Not on Pennyworth. Rest in peace to Pennyworth.
Is that going?
Yeah, they canceled it.
I
mean, to be fair, I don't think anybody was watching it.
No, I don't think so either.
It's a really fun show. I would not say in the tail end of the golden age of television, that's one that you need to cram into your list if you're not already doing it, but Pennyworth was fun.
But with Pennyworth in mind, we probably should take a quick break.
We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about some more specific moments in Do A Powerbomb.
It is an immovable fact that I killed Harlan.
Yes, you did. Yes, he did. Yes, you are. But I spoke in the car about the hole at the center of this donut. And what you and Harlan did that fateful night seems at first glance to fill that hole perfectly. A donut hole in a donut's hole. But we must look a little closer. And when we do, we see the donut hole has a hole in its center. It is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all.
Unc, look, I understand that this is amusing for you.
Why was I hard? Why would someone harm me?
Someone fishing for a crime to reverse the will, Unc.
But I was hard before the sealed will was read. So yes, the person must have known the contents of the will. But one step further, that same person must have known a crime was committed. And further, if the intent was to reverse Marta's inheritance, they must have known that Marta was responsible.
And we're back.
All
right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our specific. We're going to grab some pages, grab some moments, grab some quotes for you guys. But first, that we loved about this book. But first up, we do have to do some points of criticism because we would be lying to you guys if we said this was a perfect book. And I think people who do people who are like, this is the greatest thing ever, I immediately shut down. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you didn't actually read or participate in it. You have nothing critical to say about it. Unless you're talking about The Equalizer 3, which is a perfect film.
I'm very excited. I want this podcast to be over. I'm kidding.
So points of criticism. I have a few. I think in the grand scheme of things, Corey and I were talking about this break. I think for me, like, as we've already said, the themes, the story that Daniel Ward Johnson's telling, I've already harped about how incredible the art is. We'll get to some specific pages in a second. I think all that stuff is really working. I do think there are some story point beats and I think actually some pretty significant ones that I don't think super work that well. For me, the first big one I have, and I'll do mine and then I'll throw over to you. I don't love the intro to this book. And so the intro to this book, for those of you who don't remember or unfamiliar, the first 10 or so pages is like a prologue or flashback, or you want to call it, where we see the incident. We see Yua's final fight. We see her die in the ring. Some incredible art. Some very gripping. I mean,
very good.
The first couple pages, I was like, "Oh, this book's gonna be sick." I'm like really excited to read this, and I think that moment where we get the accident is very shocking, but in a way that I just sort of wish. And like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. So tell me if you disagree. I kind of wish we just started at 10 years later, and we get this version of Lona who is driven, who is trying to avenge is the wrong word, but is trying to contend with the memory of her mother, and is like really literally and figuratively beating herself up because of this past trauma. And then we find out the reveal through the relationship with her uncle and her father, and maybe some flashbacks if necessary. But I just think because of what the book is about, which is not about her mother, it's about Lona and her relationship to this world that she's chosen to live in. I mean, the reveal that she's still a wrestler. She's basically wearing her mother's costume after everything is. I think the opening on this, I think it's literally page 16. I think if we just started on page 16, I like this book a lot better. Am I crazy?
And I hate to once again bring up Speed Racer, but I think Speed Racer. I'm agreeing with your point. I think when we were doing this book for the book club, because I decided to pick this because I bought it after hearing so much on like the artist and writer a lot. But when I picked it up and started reading it before this, I kind of put it down because I think I was like, oh, I don't want to do this right now.
It's abrupt. It's really abrupt.
It's really abrupt, but at the same time, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't read the synopsis. I just kind of went off the cover, but I'm like, you could kind of see where it was going.
I think it's pretty wild to go from, and I'll plug the YouTube really quick, which I think I actually forgot to do at the top of this episode.
It's okay.
I was really gung-ho to talk about this book. Go over there at nexttimeon.net, nexttimeon.net for the website, but also youtube.com/@nexttimeonpod. We'll have all the videos, including this one. But I have all the pages up. It's a real visual episode for this book. Go over there and check it out. I think it's pretty wild to go from this pretty incredible page, the backflip into the crowd, to you turn the page and she's dead.
Yeah.
I
think he really wanted to do that page. Like, that's the first, like...
Which page do you mean?
That is page... the first Powerbombs.
Yeah, okay.
I think he really wanted to do that staging. I think... Because, I mean, even I was like, when I saw the page, I'm like, that's my first, like... Whoa, this is gonna be cool as shit as a book. But I think he's trying to figure out a good way to build up to that point, and I think it's hard to do it without that page. And I'm sure the order of that is hard to do. And what I was gonna say with Speed Racer is like the Speed Racer movie has a little bit of a flashback, and then it kind of shifts over to Speed Racer as an adult, kind of dealing with the death of his brother, and we kind of do this back and forth thing where like he's racing. Flashback to his brother, like, and how they doing that back and forth. So it's like we're in the story. We know Lana, or we know Speed, and then we're kind of keep it going. This we don't really. I think it just takes a second to get there. Where this is like this section should be very quick to get out the gate, or we come back to it.
Yes, I agree.
But I mean, even though I'm saying this though, I don't think it's that bad. I think
this is like I think this is a good book.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. So none of my criticisms are like this detracts the book from me. I just wish I had seen, and I feel this a lot with modern television and less so with modern films, but a lot of it's become like a weird stylistic decision that all storytellers tell you, where they start at the middle and then flashback to the beginning and then go to the end. And I don't know, sometimes that works. Sometimes you have a very inventive story to tell where, like, giving the audience a little taste of what is to come can really enhance the beginning. I don't think that's the truth of the story. And that's not exactly what this is, but this is like, we start in a different place. We start like in media res, but before. It's kind of weird. I just wish we'd started with this character. And I mean, this first issue is 25 pages long. So like I said, the intro is 16 pages. So we only get 9 pages with our main character and her story before the end of this first issue, which I just think is tough for an introduction to your story.
And I'm not trying to be like, this is what you should have done as a character, as a person, but I definitely think you could have done that first page where they kind of like have someone's watching they're watching it like on TV, and then you do that page, kind of the introduction, blah blah blah. She dies like in the scene. We don't really have the whole background for the daughter thing. She dies. We see the daughter crying about it. The other guy's the Cobra Sun's like shaken, and then we cut 10 years forward. And I feel like we can knock that out in like 3 or 4 pages. But I think this first issue after that is pretty strong, and I think it does a good job of establishing what it is, the stakes, and get the ball rolling. But this is, I mean, honestly, I think it's for me personally, a very small criticism.
Yeah, I have 2 other small ones. Well, we've sort of already touched on it. We have already touched on it. The reveal that Cobra Sun is the father, which comes actually earlier than I remembered. Now that I've noted the page, it's book 2, right? page 22, which is very soon into the story, really. Like I said, I don't hate it. I don't love it. This next thing I actually think is the weakest part of the book, and I actually genuinely don't like this. I think, but the thing is, the thing I don't like about it is it's so insignificant to the story that it actually doesn't really even affect my enjoyment.
Yeah, we don't actually even know what happens to him.
It's very weird. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Book 4, page 20, and this is also what you have written down here. Uncle Blood, who we've seen is I don't know if he's actual. I know he is an actual because he says my sister.
Yes,
he's
his sister was Lana's mother.
Yeah, Yua's his sister is,
and I think he's also like a wrestling trainer too.
Right, and has been instructed by Cobra Son
Jacob. A lot from Creed too. This book.
Yeah. Has been instructed by Jacob / Cobra Son not to train Lona. And we see his story up until this reveal in book 4 has been he is like the grieving brother who is trying to get Jacob to see that like Lona has this untapped raw talent that he can train her and make her a legend like her mother was in wrestling. And then in the middle of this wrestling tournament, it's revealed that, and actually I clocked this in the page where we see all who the teams were. I was like, are there 2 duos from Earth? That's weird.
Yeah.
And we don't know them. And that seems odd. And I just sort of like didn't really think about it after that.
Agreed.
It's revealed that the second duo, one of them is Uncle Blood. Which again, like we both said, doesn't really have any effect on the story. And
I think
feels
it's just...
it sort of undercuts the Jacob reveal in a way, because it's kind of like the Spider-Man meme now, where it's like every villain is Spider-Man's third cousin for some reason.
I think the whole thing about it is, and I know exactly what he was going for, was that you had to have that moment. You had the revenge moment. You had to build up the big bad being like, there's an extra reason I want to fuck you up because you did this thing.
Yeah.
And Rocky 4 had it where Apollo died.
Yeah.
And then, the Ivan Drago, if he dies, he dies. And then Rocky now has his own separate mission. But it happened so abruptly in this, in the sense, and like, also, I mean, I think honestly they should have just killed him if we're going to just be real with that shit. But like,
I thought, I was like, okay, he's dead. That seems, again, kind of pointless. But then when we get the reveal a few pages later that he's like,
he's
on a
alive,
hospital bed and like.
But we don't see him ever again. Do we even mention him?
No.
Okay. All right.
3 more books and he doesn't come back up. I think it's.
I
actually think there's you could literally read this book up to page 19 in book 4, skip over it to page 22, and keep reading and have not even really realized you'd missed anything. And that for a reveal that like the uncle is one of the wrestlers, gets brutally assaulted by the tag team duo that he's up against, the ultimate villains of the story, who also turn out to be kind of sympathetic. For that to be so insignificant to your story just feels unnecessary.
Yeah, I think honestly what they could have, I'm not going to tell him how to do his job. He's a comic book writer, but like maybe kind of,
right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe like have like a team like that we meet earlier on who's like very friendly to our main characters who we kind of like as like the secondary guys, and then they get fucked up.
That's how I feel about the orangutans.
We do. And I mean, they are, yes, exactly. I think like I think maybe he should have been like revealed earlier on. I think like, honestly, I don't think there needed to be a second reveal for it. Maybe he just is also there. And then there's like a sense of like kind of that a little bit of bitterness that he doesn't trust them. But like, I think maybe that would have been the better way to do it instead of being like, I'm also here. Like, why are you disguised?
Yeah. It's also, it's like, very silly.
It's like, what's the point of the disguise? But also it's very wrestling. It's also, it's very a wrestling trope too. So it's like playing into that trope a lot, which I think ultimately that's the story he kind of wanted to tell. This is a sincere story, but a lot of like tropey stuff in it intentionally.
It's also, it's silly of me to be like, here's this wrestling story where 2 of the characters are androids and 2 of them are orangutans from a planet called Junto 4.
The Orangutan.
But and like try to bring logic into it, but it seems weird. It logically seems like a little flaw for there to be 8 teams from 7 different planets, and 2 of those planets are from Earth, where wrestling is fake. And not only that, 4 of the 4 wrestlers from Earth, or 3 of the 4 wrestlers from Earth are related to each other.
Well, it seems like
in the exact same family. It just is odd. I don't know.
It seems like that the necromancer guy is kind of stalking their family a bit to an extent, though. So
yeah, which is, I think that reveal is interesting. It's like, oh, that would be interesting, and then that's what I thought, right? We see him.
I mean, we see him watching,
but then it turns out he's just a fan of wrestling and watches all his wrestling. So it seems to me like he just watches all wrestling from all different realities and worlds.
And like, this is the most fun of a storyline, basically, for me to bring these people in, kind of vibe.
Also,
he seems to do it often.
Do you believe that Earth would have the best wrestling when wrestling is fake? Wouldn't wrestling that's fucking real be better?
Yeah, but it's boring.
No, it doesn't seem boring. These guys are doing wild shit to each other.
From the other people.
I'm talking about, wouldn't his favorite wrestlers be like the Lucha Bots? They're fucking androids that do lucha.
Yeah, but we have the story.
Okay, fine.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's a pageantry, I think, to it. The story.
I'm just saying.
I want to know more about the fucking pizza werewolf guy, though.
I would love to have known more about those guys from Donsuma, whose finishing move was the New York Slice, and one of them was a pizza superhero, and the other one was, I guess, a giant Subway rat.
It's like there's a lot. I think he had a lot of fun just coming up with these like ideas, and I kind of want to see like this universe explore.
Well, that's why I said I wanted to see more of it. So like the fact that one,
and also do we need to know more kind of vibe? It's one of those things. I'm like, do we actually need to know more about the background? I would love to know more about the
I would have been
in the pizza rat.
Some of my favorite parts. Well, one of my favorite parts of the book is it is very sad, but I think the orangutan backstory where then we find out that everybody here. And fuck your stupid opinions. We find out everybody here has like a real. I mean, they're all have the same motivation.
And that's really smart to do it as well, because
there is no villain really. I mean, there are people who
Necrotin fucking lied. So.
Well, but and that's again, he isn't. I kind of wish he'd been more evil, because even it turns out he didn't really lie. He was just mistaken. He's like, I thought I would have enough power to bring your mom back, and I don't. So actually, I'm going to go bring you to God. He's like kind of a good guy.
That's actually fair. Kind of. He just likes wrestling.
That's the thing. I think this book, and this is my last point of criticism, I think this book kind of needed a real villain. It's, have you ever seen Bloodsport, Corey?
No.
So Bloodsport, which this movie and many of the Enter the Dragon, what'd you call it? It was like a
Tower of Death.
Tower of Death. There you go. Tower of Death type movies. I think the best part about Bloodsport, besides Jean-Claude Van Damme's sexy physique, is how evil Chong Li is. And he's not redeemable. He doesn't have a daughter that he's fighting for, or a kingdom he's trying to save by bringing his greatest fighter back to vanquish the evil necromancer. He's just an asshole who likes punching people. And I think maybe this book needed an asshole.
I think that's true.
There's not really anybody to root against when it's all
that's
said
the thing,
and
though.
done.
We don't have a heel.
Yeah.
There's not really a real heel in the book.
And then it turns out our heels are like fighting to bring their dead children
honestly,
back.
You know what they could have done? I guess because I think he wanted them to lose and then have a reason. Like, I think he wanted that moment of like them actually losing.
Yeah.
But like, I guess you had to. I don't know. I think there's a way to do it. I think it's just hard.
I think if fuck your stupid opinions is just there to like they're gonna wish for money. They're fighting for money, and they have the same pact. When it's all over, we'll fight to the death. Whoever wins will be the richest person in the universe, whatever they wish for. I think that still works for your story. We obviously don't get that scene, which is again very touching. I think a bit manipulative, but we see the father waiting in the hospital for his son or daughter, his child that's dying. Mm-hmm. We don't get that scene, but I think overall maybe the book works better if we just have a villain. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think, but I don't think that's what he wanted to do. I felt like in the end, because I think it's kind of just like, I think he wanted the story where like no one's really like a bad person in this. I think that's kind of like what, like, I think everyone has their reason like to fight kind of vibe to it, where like the stakes are high because everyone is personally invested for like what is basically good reasons.
It's ultimately a story about good people fighting for just causes.
Yes. And some people are just
for the entertainment of a guy who's like kind of a dick, but ultimately turned out to be
Like, not that big of a dick.
Not in the grand scheme of things, not that big of a dick. And then God's also in it.
I think even God's like, you already know I'm not like sympathetic to people, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. Just
That's the thing is, this is very much clearly not Christian God.
oh yeah, no, yeah. Or is it?
Listen, it would certainly help to convert me. That's for sure. Any other criticism before we jump into what's actually really good about this book? Because there is a lot to talk about.
No, I think that's about it for me.
All right. Well, I would say, again, I've touched on this a lot. I think just big general points. Like I said, the art is
art, the colors. There's so many spreads in this book and just full pages of wrestling moves. There's just like, it's weird, like kind of suck the air out of the room moments where you just turn the page and I'm like, whoa, that's just fucking cool. And he just does that over and over and over again and seems to just do it consistently. Where I'm like, this story could not be adapted in a different format well. It would lose a lot of what it actually is if it wasn't in a comic book.
That's really, we usually don't say that for action comic books, because as we said before, I think action comic art is the hardest art to do. It's really difficult to convey like speed and strength and propulsivity and all that stuff. It's hard to get that across in a way that works well on a page succinctly, and he does it really well. I think his paneling is really excellent. His use of space and shading is really good, and of course, shout out to Spicer. The color is
the colors are great. It's like that cannot be understated. Like if the book does not pop as well as it does without. Like the choice of colors, everyone's costumes are just very well done. Like with the way the page just feels very like bright lights and but it doesn't like it's not it can just look at it forever. Like I kind of want like a poster from this book or something like that. It's just very well done.
There's a lot of pages you could
a lot of pages. I mean, honestly, just like read it. I mean, we're describing the story, but like you really need to pick up this comic book and just look at the pages alone. Honestly, if you're still listening, why haven't you bought it yet? Like I'm confused. Weirdos.
All right, some of our favorite pages in art. So, Corey, you want to intro them while I grab each of these pages to show?
Sure. I mean, I started off with. Do you want me to start with your stuff first? I can just go back and forth as we're going through it.
Whatever works.
Okay. The first one is from book 1, page 11, and it's finally like it's like the first introduction of Cobra-san to like the crowd, which is just very like. I don't know, it's kind of like just establishing this very, like, fun heel character that we're kind of, like, going to be along the ride with. And, I mean, I didn't think he's actually being an important character, but why'd you pick this, Jay?
Well, we talked about this earlier. This is the backflip power bomb into the crowd. Yes. It's just, like, an excellent page. And
this is an amazing... It's so cool. I think it's like the first splash page, I think.
Yeah,
like, the first, like...
And we think this guy is going to be our big bad. We're 11 pages in. We're like, oh, this is going to be a pretty sick book about these two opposing wrestling identities, and then of course it switches on its head. But I think that page is really beautiful. I don't know if I have 10 more to say about it.
Yeah, no. And the second one is like the end of towards the end of the issue. It's the welcome. Basically, it's our first time seeing like what the death tournament, this other dimension is going to be like, and it's this like menacing tower, the clouds, like the running up a hill into like this. I cannot believe I have to reference it. Like the whole hill scene in Space Jam.
That's exactly. That's why I was laughing, because I'm like, I looked at this and it's Space Jam.
It's the Space Jam.
It's the fucking court in the scene in Space Jam for sure.
In a good way. It takes a lot from a lot of great movies, and also Space Jam. I think that's the next one. We don't have any notes. I think in issue 2, but our first one, at least for me, was just like it's their first day in the tournament. They're getting like obviously you get like a little bit of a brawl with somebody else. And I mean, the fight starts, and it was like the beginning of the page is a very cute looking dog, with the giant text "puppy punch" as a fist flies towards it, and I'm like, this understands comedy very well. It's like very much like, oh, this is very much my type of humor in a page.
It's just also, I will say that's one of the parts of the book where it maybe jumps over to the 12 out of 11 for me. I think it worked. It's funny, but it's just like
it's just stupid.
Would these psychopaths walk into a bar and punch a dog? Maybe, I guess.
I mean, it's the opposite of Save the Cat for a character. Like, how do you hate a character immediately? They punch a dog.
Punch a dog, yeah. A dog might, he wasn't doing anything, right?
No, he's just fucking hanging out, man. Looking cute. Next up we have like the first like the game. It kind of does like the video gamey like Street Fighter kind of vibe every once in a while, which I really enjoy. But it's our first like reveal of like the tournament, how it's going to be structured, with each of like a little like caption of each of the teams, and just kind of at least like being like, oh, this is the kind of book we're doing. This is very fun. This is the kind of book that we're getting into. But as Shay mentioned, we had the whole like the pizza party, which is it's like great because we don't actually know anything about these teams.
We also we don't ever see. I don't think we literally ever see two of them. We don't ever see Lucha Bots, and we don't ever see Devil Doers who hail from your mom's basement. But we also barely get to spend any time on Pizza Party, which is upsetting because they're definitely the ones I'm most interested in.
Pizza Party should have been their own comic. That's like I want to see the wrestling misadventures of Pizza Party.
I just think it's fucking hilarious. They're not from Earth. They're finishing move is New York Slice, and they're not. Yeah, it's great.
Next up we got what are we in? Book 3, page 22. It's I think it's like the first like moonsault from Lana's character, which is like another very big whoa moment because it's like the first like time we actually see her like wrestle. We've only seen her like get beat up, but we don't. I mean, it's all fake on her, so we haven't actually seen her like potential or skill. And it's just great. I mean, Cobra-san doesn't really have like facial expressions, but just to see his body language, and he does it said beforehand. He does a good job of like he'll use like crowd noise and the FX words, and I think Warren Johnson loves to do that with like how like strange they look on the page, but just kind of having that little by itself, no over talking, nothing, it's kind of leaving this like whoa, this is cool moment. I think it works really well. Okay, up next we have a pick of mine. It's the end of book 4 after I think it's like, is this like after Uncle Blood gets hurt? Yeah, it's like right after
yes.
Uncle Blood gets hurt, which like ultimately like a like weak part of the book. But the end page of that issue with Cobra-san with like a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire and a chair and barbed wire, I'm like, it's a very good like, oh, some shit's about to get fucked up moment.
Yeah.
And like we didn't really touch a lot on it, but Cobra-san's design is very, very cool.
Yeah. And we learned he's a
Mexican Canadian
luchador living in Tokyo.
Japan.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, guys, I also want to know more about his story because that's like a lot of sequences of events to get there.
Although, again, not a real criticism, but my biggest issue with his character design is this is how big Cobra-san is, and this is how big Jacob is.
Yeah, he must have been. Yeah, he must have been wearing a lot of layers or something.
It's just like it's very clearly there's no way that they could be the same person the way they're drawn. But I do also think if Jacob was a fucking massive person, we might have tipped the reveal a bit.
Yeah, I mean I think that's why I didn't realize the reveal. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of. I thought
also,
it was weird.
We didn't really talk about it. Do you? I'm okay with it as whatever. Do you think two parents would do that? Just not tell their kid?
I can understand it just because if the kid believes wrestling is real, as a kid, it's hard to like. I don't know.
Wouldn't you kind of have to tell them wrestling isn't real if you're an actual wrestler? Because otherwise, you're like, oh, these people are beating up my mom all the time, and then
her mom's like winning all the time. So
I know, but they're still like they're fighting all the time, and then she has to go back into the locker room where they're all hanging out with each other. Wouldn't you like, or literally couldn't take her ever to work or like expose her to anything? I think it would be a pretty hard charade to keep up, is what I thought when the reveal happened.
I could easily see them being like, I mean, how old is she? Like probably at the time. I can see them kind of probably teetering.
It was very young. It was young.
I think like if anything, it's like maybe like if she's like 7 or 8, it's like kind of one of those things where I feel like it's like kids are stupid, so we kind of had to like let them. It's easier for them to understand that your mom's basically a superhero.
I would love to know. I don't think I've ever heard a child of a wrestler talk about it, but I would love to know if they like when exactly it was told to you, or even if you had to be told, it was just like one of those things that because you're so entrenched in the world being brought into the meetings about what the story is going to be and all this shit, that you just figure it out eventually.
I mean, like, as a kid though, I mean, like, you're probably not because you were a cynical child, but like, I don't remember how long I believed that like wrestling was real. It was at some point in my life. I
don't think I ever believed wrestling was real because it was never like part of my life. Like I never watched wrestling, so it wasn't like I was I don't remember ever thinking wrestling was real.
I think I was watching with someone's like cousin who was older than us. He was like, "Oh, wrestling's real," and I'm like, "Well, that guy's older than me, and he can't lie. So wrestling's real."
I suppose, I guess if
Then
you
I
asked me when I was
older-
like 5 or 6, if somebody point blank asked me, "Do you think wrestling is real?" I guess I probably would have said yes, but I don't think I ever even thought about it.
Yeah. Well, I was a dumbass, so.
I'm not saying I was smart. I just literally didn't participate in wrestling. I just didn't have anything to do with me. I'm not claiming to be a baby genius, which maybe will be one of our movies in 2024. But
Okay. No, I promise, no. Absolutely not.
I think Baby Genius 2 for a while was the worst reviewed movie on either IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes by users. I can't remember what it was. But I kind of always wanted to do that movie. I don't think I've ever actually seen it, but I remember seeing Baby Geniuses.
Why do people don't want to see babies talk? It's fucking weird.
Yeah, I don't remember liking it as a kid.
No. Book 5, page 21, we get like towards the end of the fight with FYSO. It's really hard to remember. Lana is just hit just like, it's like you see, it's one of those moments like you feel like they're coming back and it's just like kind of slowly you see everything go wrong and she just gets the shit hit out of her with a fluorescent light.
It's a great page. It's a great
page.
Love the yellow. Love the on the previous page, Lana's face. When this is also the reveal when she finds out that Cobra Sun is her father.
It was like everything bad happening at once.
Right. This is gonna sound like a dumb question. Would getting hit with a fluorescent light hurt?
As someone who's got a hit with a fluorescent light, it doesn't hurt that bad, but it doesn't
Hold
hurt.
on.
No.
Rewind. Why have you been hit with a fluorescent light?
So as someone who got hit with a fluorescent light.
Yeah, I thought that's why they use them in wrestling, because it looks really cool. You get the glass and the
it doesn't hurt
powder,
that bad.
but it just wouldn't hurt that bad, right?
No, it's like sucks, but it doesn't hurt that bad.
Yeah. No, it's again, that page just looks really sick. Yeah.
It looks really cool, and also like it's a very good, like everything. It's like, like it's good. It's like you need that moment of the heroes just like everything fucking up, and it's a very well done page of that. You got something to say?
No.
Okay.
I just keep thinking about how you were hit with a fluorescent light before.
Yeah,
and you're acting like it was on your fucking bank robbery
a
job.
big deal.
Okay. All right.
Jesus Christ. All right. Issue 6, page 23. We find like the duo has a second chance to bring their mom back, but we have to go to heaven to wrestle God. So we get the walk down. I don't know what we call that, but like the gate to heaven, which is a wrestling ring. Do you think they just like wrestle all the time in heaven? Is that like an activity they just go to do? If like your God's a wrestler, like is that just like kind of like
I mean
a part of it?
I don't know. I honestly was gonna try to respond. I have no idea how to respond to that question. It is a very funny concept that there is a wrestling in heaven and one of the wrestlers is God. But also, it's like, would people get kind of bored of it when God just beats everybody all the time?
Yeah, it's not very fun for other people. And I think I didn't say it right after that, but I guess the page right after the intro, it's just a double page spread of God, who's just this ginormous man.
I think I love the God chant maybe the most. This is my favorite thing ever in this book. Imagine a room full of people in a wrestling arena chanting God, God, God. Actually, you know what? That probably happens like every Sunday in mega churches in Texas now that I think about it.
Honestly, I mean, I do know a church. I did meet a preacher who, like, half of his thing was also wrestling. It was like...
What the fuck are you talking about? You keep saying shit that doesn't make any sense, and you want me to blaze past it. Well, fuck you mean you know a wrestling priest?
I was on a trip, and I met this guy who was a preacher, and he was a former wrestling instructor. And he
like wrestling, like real Olympic wrestling,
like fake wrestling, fake wrestling. Like he was instructor, and like, but like basically as a way for community outreach, he had a wrestling ring where he would teach classes like that, but also did sermons on Sunday at said community center / wrestling ring.
Organized religion is wild, dog.
Fucking weird.
Also, that's Jesus Christ in the background, right? Jesus Christ is the ref.
Oh my God, it is Jesus Christ. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, no, it's Jesus. Jesus is the ref.
Jesus is the ref. That's my favorite gospel song.
All right, what's next?
Next up, we have book 7, page 9, which this is during the fight with God, which again, I'd like to remind people is how this book ends, is our two heroes fighting God.
It's really funny. That's really funny.
It is. No, it is. I'm not
funny.
arguing with it. I was just
But yeah, we have another great page of like another great high flyer page, which I do think this is like the book's strength.
Mm-hmm.
As Lana comes in like a fucking missile and just boots God in the face. What a interrupting Jesus's 3 count. Jay, you made this pick. Got anything else?
I mean, no. What else would I have to say about this page in which a woman jumps from the top rope to 2-foot kick God?
Fucking amazing.
What more would you like me to say, Corey?
No, that's fair. I'm sorry. I'm just making sure. This book is a lot of it's show don't tell, but also like if the showing is yelling at you.
I also love they don't talk about it, but I just love that our necromancer is the announcer.
Yeah, he's just the announcer now. It's like not even like it just happens. He's just like, okay.
Tiger Diver 98. Good gods.
It's also all of the names for like gods like wrestling moves. It's like the crucifix and like there was another fucking really good one too. Crucifix bomb by the beginning and the end is I want to hear some.
It's
just like he's having a lot of fun coming up with this.
No, I have to imagine he's having a good time with this.
All right, Jay, this is the next picture yours. Page 14, book 7.
Page 14, book 7 is another basically full page spread of what do they call their finishing move? It's the
sword. I think it's sword and steel.
No, they're finishing their duo sword and steel. This is Sword Sunrise, which is again our hero Lona clotheslines God.
Yes. As her father lifts him up and then goes in for the pin. But
also, not for nothing. I did think, again, this book is a fantasy book. They're literally fighting God to close it out. Some of the moves they do would kill people.
Yes, no.
I don't think you could do this in a WWE wrestling ring without breaking somebody's neck.
I think like the whole like dropping people on the head as you jump down, I think that became like something that they don't do anymore just because of people like getting so injured by the potential of it.
And this is literally the move is like he picks the person up. In this case, it's God again. Picks God up, and then his tag team partner full speed clotheslines. So it's basically like it's like a fucking rat trap where he just closes on his face, and then he slams him into the ground. I think you would die.
Dead. Yeah, no.
I don't think there is a way to fake that, but obviously in this medium where they're fighting for to bring back their deceased mother and wife, it makes sense. I just don't know if you could pull this off against Triple H on a Tuesday in Dubai.
Probably not though. But even though God does throw them off after that move, we do have the reveal that they actually made God bleed. And you had this double page spread of seeing the entirety of Heaven's Gate with a horrified crowd yelling, what?
It's great. But also, it's a Predator reference.
Yes.
In which the Predator is God in this like weird metaphor.
I don't understand what you don't understand.
Sorry. I'm asking a lot of questions, but I probably shouldn't be. I kind of just wish, I mean, it wouldn't have made any sense in this context, but I really wish he had yelled, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." I think it would have been. It wouldn't have made any sense. It wouldn't have made any sense.
It wouldn't have made sense, but no, that would have been a great scene. But but like my final page for it is God's finishing move, the Pillars of Golgotha, as he knocks out our two main characters. Which I mean, at the end of the day, our two main characters lose twice. In the book.
I would have loved to see Fuck Your Stupid Opinions take on God. I think that would have been a very interesting match. I think they really had the they had really what it takes to.
I mean, the question is,
take it down.
I wonder if Fuck Your Stupid Opinions would have lost if Lana didn't realize it was her father. They were thrown off. I would like to see a rematch personally. The other
Can't
team,
do a rematch. They killed each other.
But in the end, they learned a lesson.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Corey.
Yeah, man.
What is Golgotha? I'm no.
Why do you say this like I'm some kind of fucking religious scholar? Sorry,
I,
I hit my mic.
I don't know. But...
You fucking asshole. Golgotha, it's Calvary. It's outside. This was a site immediately outside Jerusalem's walls where, according to Christianity, so this is Christian God. Jesus was crucified.
Yeah, I did it. It's a word I'd never heard before. It's a cool sounding name for a move. It's a great page, but
I think it's referencing to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ in this move. But hey,
I mean, I agree with you that that's what it seems like the reference is, but the move isn't a crucifix.
No, it's not. But he already does a crucifix move earlier, I think. So it's like you can't double down on it.
No.
But in the book ends though. I guess we can talk about the story. It ends.
Hold on. Actually, question: is that not insensitive to Jesus, his referee, as you already know?
Also, his
son, and also him. Is it not insensitive to bring up his brutal murder every time he does his special move?
I got to imagine Jesus got over it at this point.
He is the king of forgiveness.
That is true. But I guess we really talk about the ending though. But the book ends with like instead of the two teams, they turn down the God gives them a consolatory prize of the belts.
I didn't understand this. Oh, sorry. Yes, the belts. Okay.
The belts, but and then he gives her back a memory that I guess she forgot.
But we see her remember it.
I don't think she. I mean, she doesn't remember the entirety of it. I think.
Oh, okay.
I guess in a sense she suppressed a memory because of the true trauma of seeing her mother's neck get broken.
Okay. Right. I was confused by the scene because I was like, we definitely saw this scene earlier. And he's like, I'll give you this memory back. But I guess you're right. We didn't see the end of it. So she forgot the part after she responds to the question of where do you go when you die?
I do kind of like the messaging from it, though, that little speech. And I think it's like a very good, like way of paraphrasing it that basically it doesn't really, even though the end could be predetermined or whatever the end is, we don't really know. But the whole meaning of life is what we kind of do in that middle period between birth and that's what makes it all worth it, I guess. It's a good way to look at things, and I like that. I like the way that the story ends like that, especially the final page of her mom watching on them getting their ass whooped by God.
I like the final page in that I think it is the only way the themes of this book could be wrapped up. As you all know, Corey is the sentimental one on the podcast.
I am.
And I am not.
He's not.
I sort of wish we'd gotten... I think I said this... I actually don't remember if I said this on the podcast or to you before we started recording. So if I'm repeating myself, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But I just wish we'd spent more time in this story outside of the ring. It's a 7-issue book. And 90% of it is literally in the ring. And like we said, it's a ton of fun. The action art is great. I don't feel like I have a great connection to these characters by the end, except for that I know their trauma, which connects you with people for sure. But I sort of wish we just seen more of the mother in flashbacks with the father. And do we ever see?
Yeah, they do have that scene where she like kind of recruits him for the first time.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
That was a nice scene.
Yeah.
I think, but the thing about it is though, like they had those little scenes away where like they were like walking up the stairs or like kind of like talking about their relationship and a little flashback there. I'm like, these scenes really did work. I wish a little bit more, but like I did feel like just getting this all in one reading like I did. It definitely did like kind of hit that moment of like, yeah, this was nice.
Yeah.
A lot more hopeful and a lot more. I wasn't as devastated as I was with Murder Falcon.
I think this it's weirdly, despite the fact that it starts really down. And I think ultimately, if you're being realistic, ends pretty melancholy as well. When like there's a version of this book where, as we said, we wouldn't like this version, but there's a version of this book where she's brought back to life, and there's a reunion between
Zombie Mom.
I mean, there's a version of this book where all of them come back to life, where it's like they actually defeat the necromancer, and he's forced to bring back all 8 people that they're wishing for. And I think it's obviously a happier ending. None of us on this podcast think that's a better ending by any stretch.
Just saying though, if I go to heaven, I don't want God to kick my ass to teach me a lesson. Can you just give me the lesson without just beating the mercy, like the ever loving shit out of me?
Well, it seems like God just like really loves fucking pile driving.
Yeah, I will give you your fucking lesson after you catch these hands. Huh?
I was going to call them servants, but that's not what they're called. What are they called? Subjects. There you go. I couldn't remember the word for subject. Sorry. Yeah, it is. I'd say it's a very funny conceit for a story that God is a wrestler and he absolutely fucking ramrodded this father daughter duo who all they want is to rescue their mother.
It's actually really mean, but really like a really funny way to end this book of like this. Like, okay,
it reminds me. I'm not gonna be able to credit them, so I apologize. It was some podcast clip that I came across on social media that has made many rounds. I'm sure people have seen it, but as people are like debating whether or not, like, if you needed to like save your mother's life and you needed to score a point on either Jordan or LeBron, who would you pick? And the guy picks LeBron because his argument was LeBron would probably find out that he needed to score the point to save his mom and just like let him get a quick bucket and be all right. And Michael will fucking D him up. He probably dropped 30 on his head and be like, that's a lesson for you. Get back in the gym. And that's what God did. God's really out here handing out lessons.
It's like, don't worry, you got your ass kicked, but your mom was watching. Like, that kind of makes it sadder, God. You kicked my ass and my mom was watching? Fuck.
Imagine getting fucking double pile drived. And then the guy that does it is like, actually, here's a memory.
Here's a memory. You're welcome. But the book does end very nice.
We're laughing, but this final issue is
it's actually it's a very sweet, nice ending. Yeah. But Jay, any more points that you want to touch on with this book?
Nothing specific. I did pull out a dialogue which you mentioned, the crucifix by the beginning and the end in the 7th issue. In book 2, I did love we talked about it before. It's just a funny moment where it's revealed that Willard loves wrestling so much but doesn't know that it's fake. The line, the best part of wrestling is not knowing who's going to win. The stakes are so high. It's just very on the nose, but it's funny.
I gotta say though, if I really had no idea wrestling was fake and I could keep that like mentality, I'm sure I would be watching wrestling every chance that I had. Well, I want to believe.
I do. Do you think that's true? I actually, as somebody who doesn't love wrestling, so it's hard for me to relate, but it seems to me that the part that's interesting about wrestling is the melodrama, and that the thing that's become, especially at least now, the thing that's become interesting about wrestling is that it is, in a lot of ways, theater with more sweat and violence. Yeah. And do you think it would work if actually
there was fighting? Like
if you actually thought it was real? I don't know if that's as an adult. As a kid, obviously, there's many kids who still probably think I assume who still start watching wrestling.
It does sound fucking insane if I was an adult and I watch these people like try to murder each other. I guess that's actually I guess I probably wouldn't watch that because I'm not a psychopath.
And the drama just would be like, you'd be like, what's wrong with these people? Like, don't they just
go get a job?
Stop. Why are they so angry at each other? Like,
it's like, I guess I don't really watch UFC or any other shit. So
well, there is. I'm not going to name him, one, because I don't remember, and two, because he's human garbage. But there's like a guy who his whole shtick in the UFC is that he's incredibly racist, and he'll say stuff. He'll say stuff like, "We're gonna go see your dead father when I take you to hell," to his opponents at press conferences, and people do watch his fights because I think they're hoping he gets his shit beat in. I don't know if he gets his shit beat in. I'm not 100% sure, but I just don't think that doesn't seem fun.
It's not fun at all. Like,
and there's not a lot of longevity. The thing about wrestling is it's been incredibly popular for decades, and it seems like it's only really growing in popularity. There's like another, again, this is
other
two people
now.
who are not wrestling fans talking about wrestling.
Yeah, we have no fucking idea what we're talking about.
There's like a competing outfit that is doing pretty well for the first time
like,
in a while.
Yeah, it's like expanding into like different like other networks and stuff like that now. I guess because like there's people have more of a chance to interact with it because of the internet. So I guess like, and also Vince McMahon's human garbage. So it's like people are finding their own way to enjoy this. And I mean, hell, I don't even know how long Japanese wrestling has been a thing, but I mean, we wouldn't have heard about this. And I mean, this book would not existed without like some kind of form of expansion and, you know, sharing of this kind of, you know, medium.
But I to bring it back to a thing that we do know a lot about, I think this is like what we always say. I think the thing that really appeals to wrestling fans about wrestling is the same thing that really appeals to us about the MCU, which is like the ability to tell this connected story over such a long time that it feels like it's like, I mean, you said at the beginning of this podcast, wrestling is like a soap opera. I mean, it literally is like a soap opera, which is a thing that airs every day, has a story that's been going on for an ongoing story that's been going on for some of them decades, dozens of years.
That's one of the reasons when I watched it for like 2 years, I was really invested in it because it's like, it was the lore. It was just so much of like learning about these past relationships and seeing them interact. And then you kind of get to see them fight. I mean, it is a lot like comic books, but it's like a very kind of similar thing, except not as nearly homoerotic. But
some of the comic books, I mean, that is a big part of this book, though, is that the thing that is really appealing about this Yua character, who, like I said, I wish we'd seen more of her, but what we do see of her is she's very clearly incredibly charismatic and really likable, and it's clear why she's so beloved by all these fans. Mm-hmm. And in the small parts that we do see with her and her daughter and her husband,
it seems like a really fun character. Like, it makes a lot of sense, though, but I think it also definitely does, like, lean into... It's another point. It's just like, yeah, you want this person to come back because it's, like, kind of seems like the best of both of them kind of vibe, and they've just been, like, left devastated with her wake. It just kind of, you know... Dead parent is always an easy thing to deal with for a story, but it takes a lot of effort to make it well done. Mm-hmm. And as much more time I want to spend with her, I feel like at least the emotionality of it all came across to me.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we did spend more time with her, but I think he, at least at the very end, I kind of did feel like he kind of got it. And I think he definitely took a different approach of, like, when she finds out her father's this, it's less about, like, how fucking dare you, you fucking monster. It is much more like a sense of sadness behind it, where he's been using this mask as a way to hide away from it. And not from just, like, wrestling as a thing, but now just from her, from everything. I mean, hell, even has that whole, like, I don't take my mask off, I want to keep this on kind of vibe with, like, until this is all over kind of thing. So it's like metaphorical and metaphysical, blah blah blah, psychology.
Yeah, like we've said, I think a lot of the themes of this book are really working. The art's incredible. Daniel Warren Johnson's got another winner on his hands.
He definitely does.
If you haven't already, you should go check it out. Anything else?
Yeah, because
about
even
this?
talking through it, it's still a very, very
I mean, this,
book.
like I said, this is a very visual experience anyway. So even if the plot in general is pretty. I mean, other than the fact that they fight God at the end, is like, I would say secondary to the experience of reading it.
I think that's 100% true.
Anything about this comic book, Corey, before we close this one out?
Nothing yet. I think we'll probably have an idea of what our book club will be after we do our end of the year content.
Yeah, we're not going to announce that until January, but a couple points of business, which I didn't do a super great job of at the beginning, but I'll do it now. If you're watching the YouTube video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Really helps us out. If you're not watching the YouTube video, all the links for all this shit is down in the description. You can find us over on YouTube, Threads, other social media platforms, but really it's just YouTube and the podcast you're listening to, because social media is the death of humanity. Don't forget, coming up, because it is the end of the year, we'll be doing our best of. That is maybe the next time you'll hear from us. Actually, it's not the next time we hear. No. We are going to do a Christmas-themed movie. We just haven't figured out which one of these two movies we want to do. We will be doing a Christmas movie, and then you will be seeing us for our end-of-year podcast. If you want to hear that great content, which you should, or if you want to hear any of our past content, which we just released our Santa Claus episode, The Santa Claus, to be more specific.
That was a fun episode because that was a very fun revisit. It definitely was a spirit of that the concept entirely. It very much was the curse of the rewatch.
God, that movie fucking sucked.
But
the podcast, like Corey said, was great. Go check that out everywhere you get your podcast and everywhere you get your people on the internet. You can find us at Next Time on Pod. Anything else for the people?
Nothing else from me.
I've been Jay.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Sweet Christmas.